So this week is, we know the what now, is why. Why do you need a water use license?
Why do you need a water use license?
So, yeah, you're the expert. I don't know why I need a water use license. I can just drill a borehole and supply water to my facility. And if nobody knows, then...
Gerrie, you're making me scared.
So why do I need a water use license then?
To be straightforward, the long and short story, the short story, is because you have to have a water use license. It is required by law for you to have a water use license. And then digging deeper into why do we need a water use license, I would actually call it putting the lights on. We can't be doing things in the dark. When you put the lights on, you actually get to see what's happening around you. You get to understand your water resource better and the reality of the risk of being non-compliant and being illegal. It is very possible that you can have the authorities knocking on your door.
Okay, but other than being legally compliant, and isn't there a environmental, more of a responsibility side to it, understanding the resource better and responsibly looking after that resource?
You know, when I interact with a lot of different government gazettes and the environmental acts, the water acts, I actually feel I would summarize all compliance in the basic term of sharing is caring, which sounds like I'm going back to preschool, but that's what our legal framework is trying to do. It's trying to put us in a space where we all coexist in an environment, we take responsibility of our actions, but we use our resources in a way where our neighbors, whether we like them or not, are still able to actually have their own needs met. And I think the problem is as we get older, we feel like some of the preschool lessons that we were enforced at 5 years old no longer are applicable to us because we are not the ones making the rules. Even if we feel we're the ones making the rules, there are rules still outside of us that exist.
But, I mean, you know, a borehole, groundwater, it's an unlimited resource and it's free to everyone. I mean, you can just extract water from a borehole and it's unlimited. It can never finish.
Gerrie, you're traumatizing me today. I think I need a sip of water. Okay, that's a bit of a bitter pill to swallow.
Sponsor from Aqua Energy, the original energy drink, which is pure, nice water.
Cheers. Very nice water, actually. So, Gerrie, nothing is unlimited. Absolutely nothing is unlimited. So a borehole, depending on how we use it, we can either work with that borehole, and I'm hoping this is something we're going to deal with in our next conversations. How do we use a borehole sustainably? So that it's going to be here 40 years, 50 years from now. That's stuff we need to dive into. But if we treat a borehole or any resource in a way, if we use it in an unsustainable way, that resource will very easily be depleted. And there are many dry boreholes which are all over South Africa. I think Gauteng has a whole bunch of, dry boreholes that everyone says they're dry.
There's just a hole.
There is just a hole. There's just a hole in the ground that once upon a time fed people and provided drinking water to different people. So how do we make sure that we don't have random open holes just laying around? We need to take the current resource we have, use it in a way where we are sharing and caring as we go about using that resource. And that means complying with what the legal requirements actually are. But it also makes sure that we ourselves are not even cutting off our nose to spite our face. We can have that resource for an extended period of time. But we have crisis going on in Centurion.
So it's basically, it's not the legal compliance, it's setting out rules to sustainably and responsibly extract a natural resource.
Absolutely.
And obviously we cannot extract it more. It's a underground dam.
Yes.
And we cannot extract it more than it can be replenished.
No.
And being an underground source, it cannot be replenished as quickly as a surface dam. I mean, a surface dam, you've got runoff, you've got rainwater filling up the dam.
Yeah.
But sometimes I explain to people when they think, but we've had good rain. It doesn't recharge almost in the same rain season. I mean, it needs to infiltrate into the ground. We've built as humans so many hard surfaces that there's no way that rainwater can infiltrate into the ground. And to explain it to people sometimes is if you take a table, your desk at work, and you take a 10 millimeter drill and you drill 10 holes in the desk. And you take a bucket of water and you throw the bucket over the table. How much of that bucket is actually going to go through the holes to the bottom, through the table, and how much of that water is going to run off the table? And just to give some people a picture of it's not that simple that in a good rainy season you're going to replenish underground dams. It's like it's a closed tank.
Yes.
How much water rainfall goes into a closed tank? So the legal compliance is obviously it's legally to not be a criminal, but it's also written in a way that it needs to be sustainable, not just for us now or our children, but it needs to be a source that needs to be well maintained and well managed. And it's not, we've doubled the population in the last 40, 50 years. We're sitting with 8 billion people in the world. And the number of the resources, the underground sources, it's still the same, stayed exactly the same. So it's not just being a criminal, it's being responsible for your own children, everybody else's children, their children, to make sure that we've got a proper environment to stay alive in.
I mean, for me, I think the important thing is to be able to come back and say, hey, this is what we did. What I worry about is what happens when the next generations come back and they have a completely different expression, exact same words, but they're like, this is what you did. And I mean, that's important. What legacy are we actually trying to leave behind? And the reality is, I mean, what you're saying is just like, you're just hitting the nail on the head. The resource is not necessarily changing. The things that are changing are us. We now want greener lawns, we want beautiful things that require more water. So we have these lifestyles that need to be maintained and sustained. And as we keep drilling boreholes, I like to think of it as, having a glass, and you have a whole bunch of different people who are throwing straws in the glass, and we all expect to get the full glass of water out of that. But if we only take what we need, we can actually use that resource at a rate where all 10 of us can get a sip of water in there. And it's very real what you're saying. We are altering our natural surfaces and we are putting concrete, we're building roads. And it's not that we're against those things. Those things are going to happen. But we need to do everything responsibly. We need to understand what are the risks, how we manage those risks, and how do we make sure that this resource that we want to use, are we going to use it sustainably and respectfully and responsibly so that we can actually keep using it?
I think what people need to understand as well is, unlike energy, the sun, we've known the sun to come up in the morning, go down in the evening, and it's got a certain intensity, it's got a certain energy that we can harvest. And it's almost unlimited. If you've got too little, you can add more solar panels, or you can... The water we have is what we have. When we extract it from underground, we actually put it on surface. And the people's influence on the natural water cycle of, extracting from dams and evaporation and putting dirty water into clean water systems. And that clean water systems drain into groundwater systems, and we extract. So it's water is a limited resource, whether it's from a river, a dam, from snow, from glaciers, from wherever. And if we don't treat that responsibly, we don't give nature the chance in the natural cycle to, stay in balance. So we just want more and more and more. And nature's got a way of cleaning water and almost spreading water equally over the planet. But the more we interfere with that balance,
Yes.
the less time the earth have to actually recover from that. We're at a point now where we use up the resources that can naturally be replenished in a year. We use that up in 6 months already.
Yes.
So the earth cannot keep up. So it's not whether we should do it right or it's the right thing to do. If we don't do it right, then we don't have the resources to actually survive. So it's not an option. You can tell a guy is a criminal, you can tell a rich guy that you're overusing the resource, and also, but I pay for it. It's not about the money. It's not about the responsible consumption of water to leave the balance for, and it sounds harsh, but for humankind to actually survive.
Yes. For me, Gerrie, what I like about groundwater, I've seen groundwater, in the work that we do, actually bring back hope into communities when it is used respectfully. And you find that there have been problems with getting surface water access in certain places, and groundwater has been that moment of hope. But it's so much better when you're doing things right. You're doing things in a way where that hope is not just for that moment. It's a long-term plan. And for me, really, when I look at groundwater, all the textbooks have said that there's far more groundwater than there is surface water. It doesn't mean that we must use this resource irresponsibly. How much better would it be if we actually learn to right some of the wrongs that we did with our surface water? And that's one of the valuable opportunities that we actually have when we look at groundwater and when we look at using it in a sustainable way. The way that our legislation actually requires us to go about doing things. And I know compliance legislation, it just sounds like such a schlep. But it's actually just to try and put us in a position where we are forced to understand the resource, understand what groundwater is, and take responsibility for making sure that it is well taken care of.
And getting back to from being a criminal is why you need a water use license to going towards stewardship, and using that responsibly, because understanding the whole interconnectedness between surface water and groundwater and our responsibility in how much we consume, and that's our whole drive in what we do as aquafiction is also let's help you understand your consumption better.
Yes.
And once you understand it, we can help you reduce it, because there's so much waste in the system that we don't know about. So our whole approach is getting your consumption down, helping you to keep it down, because water is also, it's not getting it down, it's keeping it down.
Yes.
And then from there, actually only replenishing from other sources, from rainwater, borehole water, replenishing only what you need. Not, we've drilled a borehole, we can get 10,000 liters an hour. So
let's get more.
We're going to use 10,000 liters an hour. You only need 2,000.
Yeah.
So why do you want to use the 10,000? Because you can get it. Use it responsibly, because then we don't have a water issue. We've got a mindset issue. And we don't change the mindsets, then we don't have to get to a point where people are incriminating themselves by not having water use licenses, by actually taking ownership and stewardship. And that's something maybe we can discuss later, is how, and I mentioned it with a previous discussion as well, is how are we going to get people encouraged to use it responsibly instead of a stick to incriminate them on. And I think there's a lot to talk about that, and part of the whole surplus water 2025 movement is to tell the good stories of the people that's doing it right, instead of having all the news out there of the people doing it wrong.
And I think for me, what really stands out for me is just when you mentioned the word stewardship. We can't always expect government departments, municipalities, or whichever private sector is making a lot of money that year to come up with the solutions. If we're part of the problems, as I mentioned in our previous discussion, we need to be part of the solutions. And it's time for us to put the lights on. And we can't just decide we are going to add another resource. We need to change the way in which we do things. It's just unfortunate that we're at a point where Now there has to be policies written that are telling us that we need to actually behave accordingly. But these are things that we've always known.